I mean, we're treating Alex Jones like a credible voice here. We're treating Tucker Carlson like a credible voice.
I don't consider Alex Jones a credible voice, but there are people you travel the country and talk to Trump voters who do.
Okay, so let's just say you're right, and some people listen to them. Who do you think they listen to more? Those people or President Donald Trump? I know what the polling says.
So Scott Jennings is melting down. And honestly, it's worth watching. Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, major MAGA voices are starting to break with Trump. And Jennings is on with John King and Karen Finney trying to hold the whole thing together. I've got thoughts. Let's get into it.
Tonight, a MAGA revolt growing over the president's war with Iran, even as President Trump claims victory with a shaky ceasefire deal. Listen right here for yourself.
Iran has basically gotten everything it wants in the agreement because Trump was desperate to open the Strait of Hormuz. There's a huge black eye to the United States. This thing, 39 days in, is a total and complete disaster, and we have been right about it.
I am sick of this shit. I'm sick of it. Can't he just behave like a normal human? I mean, honestly, like the president, 3D chess, shut up. Shut up about that shit. You don't threaten to wipe out an entire civilization. We're talking about civilians just casually in a social media post.
Those people who are in direct contact with the president need to say, no, I'll resign. I'll do whatever I can do legally to stop this because this is insane. And if given the order, I'm not carrying it out.
I'm confused. I can't believe we went to this war. When we started bombing Iran, I was like, this can't be true. Because supposedly they're trying to stop the terrorists.
Yeah, that's crazy, though, if you're the terrorist. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to stop them, stand in front of the mirror.
My political sources tonight, Karen Finney, former senior advisor to Hillary Clinton, and Scott Jennings, the former senior advisor to Senator Mitch McConnell. Thank you for being here. Scott, you may not agree with all those voices, but there are a lot of Trump voters out in America who listen to them. Maybe not all of them, but some listen to Tucker, some listen to Megyn, some listen to Joe Rogan, some still listen to Alex Jones. This is going to hurt.
I mean, we're treating Alex Jones like a credible voice here. We're treating Tucker Carlson like a credible voice.
I don't consider Alex Jones a credible voice, but there are people you travel the country and talk to Trump voters who do.
Okay, so let's just say you're right, and some people listen to them. Who do you think they listen to more? Those people or President Donald Trump? I know what the polling says, and I know what my instincts tell me is that Donald Trump runs the party, he runs the country, not the podcasters. They're welcome to have opinions, and I don't begrudge anybody having an opinion, and you could have a different opinion than Donald Trump. But I know who has more influence over the Republican Party and the conservative movement, and there's no doubt about it, and there has never been any doubt about it, really all that much for the last 10 years. So their opinions are fine, but the person in charge right now was in charge, is in charge, and will be in charge until he leaves office.
Mike Cernovich, another MAGA influencer, one of the most popular on X, tweeted today, Trump ran on idealism. Good people trusted him. They feel deeply betrayed. I hear it every day. Just another lonely voice to you? Or
Well, look, okay, I can also play I hear people saying every day that this is exactly what they voted for. They voted for a commander-in-chief to restore American strength on the world stage. They voted for a commander-in-chief to keep Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. They voted for a commander-in-chief who would do what the 7 previous presidents would not do, and that's deal with these people with a firm hand. So I hear things too. And again, everybody's welcome to an opinion. I don't begrudge anybody their opinion. But you can't deny that Donald Trump has always been a hawk on Iran. He's always said he would never permit them to get a nuclear weapon, and he's taking those actions to prevent that right now. That is the direction he is doing, and it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone because he's always been very clear that he believes they're fanatics, and he believes they cannot have a nuclear weapon, and he believes that dealing with them and cajoling them, they don't understand that language. They only understand the language of strength.
I'll come back to some of that, but I want to let you into the conversation. So when you watch all that as a Democrat, you're celebrating. And I get your point. I get your point. I get your pushback. However, if you look at the polling, there's a slice of the MAGA base that doesn't like this. If you look at recent elections, the Republicans clearly have an enthusiasm and a turnout problem going back to 2025. And you can say special election, but there have been dozens plus now, and the Democrats 30. Have been winning. So you're not going to, you don't care to talk to them, but is there something Democrats should be saying to any Trump voter who might have just even paused or like, where are we?
Sure. But 2 things. Number one, I think more influential than Donald Trump, and this goes to your question, is what people see and feel in their own lives every day. So when you go to the gas pump, if you're a farmer, we've had stories on all day on CNN today about the strain that farmers are feeling and the fear that they have when they're trying to plant for next year. So I think people trust their own pocketbooks. For Democrats, I think there's 2 pieces to this. One, speak to the anxiety, but talk about what we would do. One of the ways Democrats made inroads in the 2006 midterms, I happen to be at the DNC. I'm sure Scott remembers those midterms quite well.
I do. I was at we called them the salad days there at Bush White House.
But it was a time, one of the things we were able to do, George Bush had, as you know, dramatically dropped in terms of people's faith in his ability around the Iraq War. Democrats didn't just have our critique about the Iraq War. We had ideas about what we would do differently and a positive agenda that spoke to the economic concerns. That's what Democrats need to do now is, yes, speak to the concerns, because there are people, let's talk about this. There are people who feel like the president doesn't need to be using vulgarity when you're talking about, bombing people out of existence, who feel like that's not actually what I voted for, and it's a war of choice that is actually harming people here at home. So speak to that and encourage the fact that that's what people are feeling, but then give them something else.
I suspect you're going to say, there you go again, to borrow an old term. We mentioned all those other voices in the Trump ecosystem, MAGA ecosystem. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the former congresswoman, Candace Owens, the podcaster who's out there on many things, they say Trump should be removed.
You can have her, by the way.
They say Trump should be removed. The 25th Amendment, saying his threat to end Iran civilization.
Okay, I need to pause here for a second, because the mental gymnastics from Jennings are something else. Sure, you can write off Alex Jones as a fringe lunatic. Fine, fair enough. But Tucker Carlson? Tucker was MAGA royalty not that long ago. He was tight with Trump, tight with J.D. Vance, tight with Trump's sons. He spoke at the convention. He was right there in the middle of all of it. So for Jennings to stand there and act like Tucker is just some fringe figure nobody listens to, that's just not accurate. And Jennings knows it. But look, Jennings is going to simp for Trump no matter what, even if he's the last person on earth doing it. That's just what he does. And 3 years from now, when Trump leaves office in disgrace with historically low approval ratings, Jennings is going to pretend like none of this ever happened. He's going to move right on to whoever the next Republican is and act like he was never one of Trump's biggest defenders. I genuinely hope CNN keeps the tapes, because they all do this. And Megyn Kelly, can he not act like a normal human? Where was that question a year ago? She knew exactly who Trump was. He didn't suddenly change. She sold her soul to MAGA because she couldn't make it as a real journalist. So she went all in, and now that the ship is sinking, she wants off. Tucker too. Alex Jones too. They can all see it going down, and they're trying to quietly back away like they were never part of it. But here's the thing. They don't get a lifeboat. None of them. Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Scott Jennings, Alex Jones. They all helped get him elected. They all knew what he was. It wasn't some big surprise. He's always been exactly this. And you don't get to suddenly discover your conscience just because he's finally unpopular. You helped make this happen. You don't get to just walk away from that.
Are out there. If you went out and knocked on their door tonight and said, yes or no, should we let podcasters and Democrats remove Donald Trump by the 25th Amendment?
Let me flip it.
You'd be thrown off of every porch in America.
Let me flip it just a little bit, because I agree with you that the overwhelming majority of Trump voters will listen to Trump. I don't think there's any question. However, Trump has benefited enormously from having an echo chamber, having allies that include all of those people. All right, part of his success has been because of that. They've brought him into unconventional places in the electorate. They've brought out people who didn't vote before. They've helped him. You're shaking your head. You're one of them. You have a podcast now. It helps. It helps if people are echoing the president and saying he's right.
I don't deny.
If they have influence with his voters, it cannot help when they say he's wrong.
I don't deny the usefulness of having surrogates and allies, but I think you're oversubscribing their importance and undersubscribing the importance of Trump himself. And I think, frankly, the only reason we're playing them on our air right now is because they're useful to a narrative. We don't consider these people to be credible at any other time until they are attacking Donald Trump. Otherwise, we call them crazy. Otherwise, we call them crazy.
No, I'm being careful. I'm being very careful about it, because I said I don't view Alex Jones as credible. I don't view Tucker Carlson as credible, or as a conservative, anyways. However, I do travel the country and talk to a lot of Trump voters who listen to these people. And I respect them and their choices. And they do listen to them. I'm not saying they side with them, but they do.
I'm not disagreeing they listen. I'm not disagreeing they listen. But again, I would just say listening to someone and taking their word for everything over Donald Trump every day.
Let me ask you a question. I'm sorry, Karen. Then I might yield you the rest of the conversation. I'm not being fair at the moment. But you earlier used the term fanatics, talking about the Iranians, which is a term that people have used for a long time. Marjorie Taylor Greene's point, actually, is that the president said wipe out a civilization. When the Iranians say wipe out Israel, when the Iranians say wipe out the Jews, we say they are extremist fanatics. So why is it okay when the president of the United States says it?
I think the president was speaking to them in terms and stark language that he thought would get their attention. And let's just draw a line between that moment when we didn't think a deal could be had until later that day when all of a sudden they were at the table and interested in possibly dealing. So I'm not going to take away the space of the commander in chief to deal with these people in the way that he thinks is best. And now we have the possibility of a deal. I understand it's ragged around the edges and there's, things going on, but he's dealing with them in the way. And by the way, he's always had pretty good instincts on Iran. He had them since they took power. He had him in his first term. And I think a lot of Republicans recognize that.
And this is just pure revisionist history from Jennings. Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene were absolutely viewed as credible mainstream figures within MAGA, and not that long ago either. They wouldn't have had Tucker Carlson speaking at the Republican National Convention if he wasn't considered a legitimate, respected voice within the party. You don't get a convention slot if you're some fringe nobody. So for Jennings to stand there and rewrite that history in real time, that's just propaganda. That's what he does every single day on CNN. Misinformation, spin, revisionist history. But here's my prediction, and I'm putting it on the record right now. In 3 years, when Trump is out and they've all moved on to J.D. Vance or Little Marco or whoever's next, Scott Jennings is going to say, Donald Trump, I don't know him, never heard of that guy. You watch. Every single one of them is going to drop Trump the second he stops being politically useful, like a bad habit, gone. And look, Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, all of them, they're not credible. They never were. They just had a large audience and a willingness to say whatever MAGA wanted to hear. And now that MAGA is fracturing, Jennings wants to throw them under the bus to protect himself. But he's on the same bus. So is this a real fracture in MAGA, or is it just noise? Drop it in the comments. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.